Or again. Okay. So as I was saying when I was interrupted, um, the as you take over consciously for more real estate that you used to allow yourself, you know what the truth was, but you let it slide. And suddenly, no, that was already, you know, you brought it in to, I'm sorry, this is what I'm about. And as you squeeze down that area of, you know what's right, but you just don't give a darn. What happens is that, as I said before, you get a new stuckness on who you are and what you are. And those things that you thought until now were beyond you, or for people, or meant for people who are better than you, suddenly, nishkasa. It's also you. And that in and by itself exposes new areas of truth that until now you didn't even realize were there. This is a slow and gradual process. What happens is that when you come to the tzaddik, the tzaddik assesses what degree of refinement have you achieved? Have you achieved between you and you? And in accordance to that, as you have managed to move the marker along, as it were, now it is possible to give you shards of kedusha that you lost. Because if you are in the same level as you were before, if you're at the same level as you were before, what's the point to give you the shards of kedusha that you lost? Let's say that you look at things that you should not be looking at. And as a result, you lost inyone kedusha, shards, mitzitzas, sparks of kedusha. If you're still holding on the same level, the same madrega, what's the point to give you back those shards that you lost? You're just going to lose them again. So the tzaddik has to check you. What is your madrega of kedusha now? What is your level of truth now? How much have you moved the marker? Did you get a first down, as it were? Did you go down the field of conquering the kedusha? And you're moving the marker down. You have established, you have managed to get for yourself a much, a higher level of truth. Okay. Now the tzaddik can return these avedas to you because you will be able to equip them, you're able to guard them. You're responsible. These are all the pieces of your own nefesh. It's all pieces of your own soul. You have put together, for the tikkun. So this is that nakuda of the uh, the um, the cripple, that once he got his legs under him, the Zohar says, Kushta Kai, Shikra Lokai. The truth stands. Lie cannot stand. We'll explain Al Pipashat that the letters of Emes, Aleph, Mem, and Taf are either standing on, widespread two sturdy legs, or on a flat platform, the Mem. So truth is steady. It can stand. The word sheker, which is shin kuf resh, the letters, each one is a pointy, and it cannot stand. That's what they said. The shikra lokai, the sheker does not stand. Here they say a sheker elogline. The lie doesn't have a leg to stand on. So when the cripple is getting his legs under him, means that he has increased his level of kedusha to the point that now he is ready to retrieve that which was stolen from him. So this is, let's just put on give me a sec here. Here we go. He then came to the decision to return to the forest in which he had been robbed. The idea is to retrieve the kedusha that was lost. When he arrives, he chooses a tall tree. The tall tree, of course, that's the tzaddik. The tzaddik is called a tree. Moshe Rabbeinu is sending the people, the Meraglim. And he says, go throughout the land, from north to south and east to west, and look what the people are, the strong, the weak, whatever. They're sitting in fortified cities, in open cities. Does it have a tree or not? What do you mean to have a tree? You ever seen a country that doesn't have trees? Every country has trees. He says, no, Rashi says, you have to take a look if there is a tzaddik, that with his chus, he is protecting the entire generation. They said Moshe Rabbeinu told him, you have to find out with Eov, Job is still alive. Because if Job is still alive, we won't be able to invade and take over Eretz Yisrael. Because Eov would protect Eretz Yisrael with his chus. The tzaddik is the tree, and he protects all those, who cling to him. So, in order to be able to start retrieving that which is lost, the first thing he needs to do is to choose a tall tree near the path along which the bandit go out to rob. There is a cloud that the tshuva always needs to be in circumstances which are identical to what they were when I first goofed, when I first fell. The Gemara says the same place with the same woman. You're supposed to stay with this status, you're staying away. Same circumstances. You take a tree which is close to this because those circumstances will come to you. You have to go on. You have to go on the quest to retrieve those shards of kedusha that you lost. Now what happens? He says it takes out the dust of righteous and the dust of the insane, mix them together, and spread them on the path and climbed up the tree to see what would happen to them. Let us take a look at what happened to them. He saw the bandits going out, having been sent out by the head bandit he mentioned above, to go out and steal. And when they came to the path, as soon as they stepped on the powder, they became righteous. And they began to cry out for the souls, for their own souls, for having robbed until then, and for killing several people. They made tshuva. However, but since it was mixed with the powder of the insane, they became crazy tzaddikim. And they began to argue with each other. This one said, it's your fault that we robbed. And one said, it's your fault, until they killed each other. And Hanbadits in another group, the same thing happened, killed each other, and so it continued after until they're all killed. This particular nakuda of mixing the dust of righteous and the dust of the insane is a very, very important nakuda, because those people, these robbers, they did not go through whatever it is that the cripple went through. They did not go through what they called isaruta del tata. It didn't do it out of their own volition. They stepped on the powder. On the powder, boom, that's a beacon. But this tzidkis is not of their own. This tzidkis comes from exposure to too much light, to too much das. The very same thing as we said, how did they become robbers? Because their das, that was too much light, too much seichel. And when a seichel has too much seichel, it doesn't have, the faculties to contain it, the masim tov to contain it. He goes bonkers. They become robbers. Now, when they stepped on the powder of tzaddikim, now they became crazy tzaddikim. And it's a very, very fine and important nakuda that we need to understand. All of us, whether we come from a totally non-religious background, or whether we come from a religious background and sort of like finding our way, to really get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have to understand that, as the Gemara says, "En Adam choyta, ela im ken nichnas ve'ruach shtos." A person does not sin unless a spirit of folly enters him, takes over him. He's like bewitched. He's under a spell. Of course, there's the spell that we saw, when you don't even realize what the spell is. You don't even realize what their truth is. That truth totally, you're totally oblivious to that. In fact, if anybody were to tell you, you know, ABC, you know, you're totally, I don't know what they get talking about. You know, in many people, you can see that when they have a relationship in their house, and the relationship in the house is not going the way it should be. Shalom Bayis is not going the way it should be. That kind of myopia is very common. I mean, look at her, or look at him. And when you come to tell the person, you know, you're not you're not appreciating who your wife is. If you were to accept who she is, you know, the things would change. The reaction is, you don't know my wife. This may be true about anybody, but not my wife. If you were to know my wife, you said, no, that's an exception. What can you tell? What can you say? She's nuts. Yeah, because you're on a total obliviousness. You're blind. You're in denial. And being in denial is the worst state of being wrong. Because you have no chance of getting out of it. Because you don't know if there's anything to get out of. So what needs to be done is that tzaddik has to mix up the powder of tzaddikim and the insane together. And our tshuva has to have in it the elements of insanity. Because we're crazy. We're crazy. If the tzaddik was to talk to us in a way that is speaking to normal people, we would think he's crazy. It would never move us. You can see this very, very well. There are all kinds of groups that Rabbeinu is mekarev to him. Some people need to take vans and dance in streets in Tel Aviv and whatever it is. And other people look at it and look, I mean, this is insane. And it's true. But this is holy insanity. Because those people who do it cannot do tshuva if the powder of righteousness was not mixed with the powder of insanity. But that's not just them. This is us as well. The powder that the tzaddik puts along the way of our way is, if we go through all the trials and tribulations, if we go through the distress, if we overcome all the challenges, then we're able to get the truth in its clean form. The das, which is the sun, tells the moon, which is the Emunah, exactly what the story is. There's a tree, and you can't overshine it because you'll dry it out. And there's a problem with the legs, with the feet. And the demons are sucking from it. And this, in other words, this is when you're standing in this world, when you're dealing with this world. You should know that the demons are sucking from your feet, they're sucking from your emunah, they're dragging you down. Once you realize that, then you're able to realize what the truth is. Hold on to the truth. But in our generation, because Baruch cannot wait, like in Mitzvah Mitzrayim, because Baruch could not wait until we would go through all the trials and tribulations and ascertain the truth. So the tzaddik spread this powder of insanity and righteousness together. And each and every one of us, if he takes a look back at the road that we took to get to where we are today, whoo, man, we were bananas to the point it's like, what was I thinking? And not only this, but we were so full of self-confidence. We know where it's at. Until now, I didn't know, but now I know. Now I have it totally clear. That's the way it is. And anybody who doesn't see it my way is not normal. Yeah. It's the only way to make us see the light. And that killing, which is that they killed each other, these are all the things that we do in ourselves. We get depressed. We get angry with ourselves. What are you getting depressed? You're nuts. It's supposed to be the simcha. No. So now you're telling me it's supposed to be the simcha. Not only am I not the simcha, now I'm going to be depressed that I'm not the simcha also. No. These are the bandits fighting amongst themselves. This is the battles that you are waging between you and yourself. Anybody, if the truth of the matter is, if you were to take the battles that you are waging in your own head and just put it on the table before you, and you take a look at it, and you say, I don't know who this guy is, but whoever it is, he's like totally way out there. What is it? Yeah. These kind of arguments, inner arguments, these kind of bandits fighting with one another, that goes inside each and every one of us. The Esh Kodesh of Piazetzna, he said the only difference between a person who is certifiably insane and you, as you both have the same thoughts in your head. The only difference is that he acts out on them and you don't. That's it. His entire shita was, to regain an equilibrium. First of all, just quieten down your mind. Famous shita, they call it, guided imagination, which is based on his religion. We have these bandits, fighting between us all the time. These inner fightings that we are going through are the equal to the trials and tribulations that the cripple went through. This is the way that we ascertain the truth. As we go along, every now and then, we realize, something, why am I killing myself over this? It's no need. I'm, again, speaking only for myself, I'm not able to stay up Shavuos all night long. I can't. If I do it, afterwards I'm a wreck. I mean, to the point of distress, not just I'm tired. I'm just like. So I asked my Rav, what should I do? So he says, go to sleep. No, go to sleep. It's supposed to stay awake all night. But you can't. So you do what you can. Now, what about the mikveh of the dawn? What can you do? The Rebbe says the mikveh of Shavuos, before dawn, Shah Hamishim, 50th gate. It's true. If you can't do it, you can't make it, you can't make it. So I said, not only this year, I had the same kind of problem last year. It killed me. I was like, so he said, why didn't you ask me? Why did you wait until now? So because I didn't have the seichel to ask. I said, okay. Rabbeinu said, when you're young, you go all out. When you get older, you guard your health. So sich and sichas. That's the way to do it. What I usually do is Shavuos, that's the way I can do. I'm not telling anybody else to do it. What I do is I stay up as much as I can. And then I go to the mikveh. It's a few hours before that's how close it is to that amazing mikveh of pre-dawn mikveh of Shavuos. But that's what I can do. So I do what I can. All right. Certain part of you has settled. I mean, settled. That's when you need a rov. To settle the insanities inside you. Okay, it's okay. You do what you need to do. There's certain things that you think that it's not too bad. And it's awful. There's certain things you think are awful, they're not so bad. This you can only be makabel from the Talmidei Rabbeinu that have what they call a clear medama. When they have a clear medama, the Rabbeinu said to Moshe, I've given you a clear medama. A clear medama to understand what is left, what is right, and what is wrong. Okay, B'ezrat Hashem, now we will have two files for tonight's shir. Before the break and after the break. By the way, before we get off, something which I think that you may find interesting, amusing, whatever. There's a big to-do now with Jerusalem. Trying to go on the Temple Mount and the whole. The question is, why do the Arabs make such a big stink out of that whole thing? That mosques and whatever. What is this? What is this? So I heard this. He said he doesn't know a makor for that, but he said his Rabbi Yosef Ben Porat was very active in Balachuvas and Arachim, and he puts forth a theory that I found very enlightening. And he said, look at what's going on. Beis Hamikdash, Bais Rishon, King Yoshiyahu saw that there's a pasuk that your enemy will take you and all your precious possessions, and the king which is on top of you, and will take it to Babel, take it to. They say that Shlomo Melech already saw it, and he has already built a special hiding place, which cannot be found under the Temple Mount. And King Yoshiyahu went and he took the ark with the luchos and he hid them in there. By Sheni, there was no ark anymore. And there's a Mishnah, Maseches Midos, that the Kohanim that were crippled, that had some kind of a defect, could not serve in the Beis Hamikdash. But what they could do is they could clean out the wood for the mizbech, because a wood that had a worm in it or whatever it is, it wasn't perfect, could not go in the mizbech. So they were checking the wood, and he saw that one of the stones on the floor was not equal. And he called his brothers, the Kohanim, and they realized that this is where the Aron Kodesh was. The Aron Kodesh was hidden. And he said before he was able to complete the sentence, he passed away. You have the people of Bais Sheni, this Gdoile Ador. You had Nevi'im. You had Nevi'im. All the way through Bais Sheni, you had Nevi'im. They never ever took the ark from its hiding place, because they knew there's going to be another destruction. The second temple will also be destroyed. As you can see, the ark in Rome, the Romans took the menorah, but they did not take the ark. They have some kind of a picture of an ark, but that's not how the ark looked like. The menorah they took. Some say it's in the Vatican, some it's not in the Vatican. Doesn't make a difference. Now, in the end of the 19th century, they invented a new science called archaeology. And the name of, suddenly what happens is that what they do is you go ahead and you dig. And when you dig, you find an artifact and you say, this is, okay, let's date this. This is from that era, this is from that era, whatever it is. And this is that, 100 years old, 500 years old, 1,000 years old, whatever it is they say. If you take a look at the chutzpahdik Israelis, what do? They go ahead and they dig any place they want. And what do they do when there are graves there? They simply take the bones of the people that are there and just chuck them out in the area of archaeology. In Israel, there's a law of the person's dignity and liberty. The first dignity and liberty is that you have a bias on your own property. Those people who are lying in their graves, they bought these graves. What's supposed to? You're just throwing them out. Imagine they take your father and throw him out of his grave. Are you nuts? Comes the question, with all this, the land of the Bible, everybody digging everywhere. This should take precedence over everything. Which place in Israel would be the most interesting place to dig? You got it. Yerushalayim, the Temple Mount. But can you imagine what an archaeological find would be to find the ark with the luchos? Finally, to be able to see what it means, Mem v'Samach Baluchos were standing in a miracle. HaKadosh Baruch Hu took these Banda Mishagoyim, these Muslims. By the way, Jerusalem is not even mentioned in the Quran. And gave them some kind of a lore. And they're sitting on that particular place. If you were to touch it, they're going bonkers. They're going crazy as it's going on now. Until Bezat Hashem, the kind that Mashiach himself, Bezat Hashem, will be Beis Hamikdash and will take the ark out and put it where it's supposed to be. Now, I cannot vouch the verisimilitude, how true this particular explanation is, but it's a nice one, I have to admit. Nevertheless, I mean, it fits the facts, so it doesn't mean that it's true, but it's a nice explanation. Bezat Hashem, we'll see you all on Thursday. Guten Aram, Bezat Hashem, Terech Hafalov. Be gesund and be gebenched and kol tov, everything that